Right, Fulham have reopened talks with Manchester United over the signing of the midfielder Scott McTominay. Fulham had 2 bids rejected earlier in the window. They weren't expected to go back in unless United were willing to negotiate on the asking price. There is an expectation that Fulham will go back in with an improved offer if talks go positively. So they've reopened the talks, James. What are your thoughts on this? It sounds like Fulham are pretty keen on McTominay, pretty keen to get this deal done if they can.
Marco Silva said last week they definitely need to sign a central midfielder, and he'd like to sign a centre-back as well. We saw him actually feature against Fulham. He nearly contributed the winner in the end. It came so close, coming off his boot and going in the back of the net. 6 minutes against Fulham. He's entered the final year of his contract. I think United are quite relaxed about the situation, though. They know if they sell well in this window, if they could sell somebody like McTominay or Sancho, maybe not Casemiro, he impressed the other night, for decent money, that really helps them and gives them wiggle room to go out and spend more money and perhaps improve their options in midfield. You look at how Fulham set up the other night without Paulinho. They had Lukic in midfield, Pereira and Smith Rowe, Pereira dropping a little bit deeper. I'm intrigued to see where Scott McTominay will fit in, and that's why I'm finding it very interesting to see them pushing really hard for his signature. 2 bids rejected, looking to reopen talks with Fulham, because I think when we saw him at Manchester United alongside Fred, that didn't seem to suit him. He did a credible job there, but he's not his best when he's deep, picking the ball off the defence. That's not his strength. Actually, we found him being better moving forward in the final third of the pitch. And for Scotland, he plays as a centre-back. So maybe Fulham are seeing him as a really versatile option that can fit in a number of positions. And the fact is, he's played more than 200 times for Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the world. So that experience could go a long way to helping Fulham as they try and live without Paulinho, who's been one of the best players they've had in the Premier League.
Absolutely, and that's why I'm slightly surprised. I thought they might have gone and tried to prioritise a purely defensive midfielder to slot in as a like-for-like replacement. So, if McTominay comes in, what's that starting midfield looking like for Fulham?
I mean, it goes back to what you were saying there, James, really, and if Fulham are seeing him as a versatile option, I think, from Scott McTominay's point of view, I think he's almost been seen his whole career as a versatile option, and he might be absolutely fine with that. But the same side of the coin, he might also think, well, actually, I'd quite like to nail down a place and become the main man, wherever that is in midfield or in the number 10 position, wherever he sees himself. And I think that's going to be the crucial thing. If and when it gets down to the stage where Fulham get to talk to the player, where can they sell to him how Marco Silva sees him fit in? Because I mean, João Paulinho was almost like, a bit of an outlier in terms of tackles off the scale, interceptions off the scale. It's very hard to get a like-for-like in for João Paulinho because he was so good in that position. So if Marco Silva sees him as part of the 2 in the deep positions, maybe that's a change in build-up for Fulham. Maybe it's a change in kind of style a little bit for Marco Silva. Whether he sees him as the kind of number 10 that he's going to bash his way into the box for headers at corners and things like that, and what does that do to Emil Smith Rowe? So I think it's about where Fulham see him and how he sees himself, really, Scott McTominay.
And how about Man United? I mean, if he leaves, would you be very surprised if they didn't bring in a midfield replacement?
I'd be absolutely gobsmacked if they didn't. I think this is sort of the domino that Manchester United are potentially waiting for to fall in order to get another deal done for another player in central midfield at Old Trafford. There's a lot of strong reporting that Manuel Ugarte of PSG is waiting for Manchester United, is wanting to go to Manchester United, and there's a willingness from both sides to do that, but the equation isn't quite working out in terms of the fee. But also, I do see what you're saying there, James. Man United are quite relaxed because Erik ten Hag does really like Scott McTominay. And actually, there wasn't much great about last season for Manchester United, but in terms of finding a role for Scott McTominay, I think Erik ten Hag did that to a T. As soon as he got into Manchester United, he broke up that partnership of McTominay and Fred, which Manchester United fans have seen for a very long time, have its limitations and some of its strengths, but it needed to be broken up and the evolution needed to take place. And he found this new role for McTominay, sort of further advanced, not getting involved in build-up, not getting involved in trying to necessarily be a chief in breaking play up, but actually getting himself into the box, making third-man runs late into the area, and scoring a decent amount of goals for Manchester United to save points and win points. But Manchester United will definitely be looking for another player in central midfield if Scott McTominay leaves, and also Christian Eriksen. Have to see what happens with the future of him as well. But another player that I think Manchester United would be open to if the right offer came in.
Yeah, Man United, of course, up and running with a win.
You certainly don't hurt your chances of a starting place by coming on for your debut, dropping to help the build-up, linking up really well with your teammates, having great anticipation, and then scoring the winner at the Stretford end. But I don't think Erik ten Hag is viewing Joshua Zirkzee as an instant starter just yet, because the manager has spoken about him needing some time to adjust and get to know his teammates better, the tactical demands, and also because actually playing Bruno Fernandes as the false nine with him and Mason Mount leading the press just set a great energy and tempo for Manchester United. Their chance creation was a lot better. They looked more dynamic with that pair sorting out things in that front line. And the intensity was really what Ten Hag wanted. What we did see from Zirkzee is that he's a different profile to Rasmus Højlund, who obviously prefers to run in behind. And it just arms the manager with greater variety and different weapons so he can tinker his lineup based on the opposition, based on match situations. And then speaking of instant starters, what a full debut from Noussair Mazraoui at right back. We saw how progressive he is, how much he aids the build-up, and that he's just press resistant. He's a lot more suited to the approach than Aaron Wan-Bissaka was. So we've spoken a lot about United looking to change the dynamic of the squad this summer in this transfer window, and we've seen that quite a bit. Now we're focusing on the new recruits, but will there actually be more exits? Jadon Sancho is here in training, but he had an ear infection last week. He wasn't selected in the matchday squad against Fulham, even though he was fit enough to be in it. So while the transfer window is open, there'll be lots of focus, and the big storyline will be on his future, because there is interest in him from PSG and elsewhere. Will a big bid come in? That is the question. Then Scott McTominay, he also has several suitors. Fulham being the chief one, but United need the right price and he needs the right environment if he is to leave. Will we then see some new faces training with the squad? United still in the market for a midfielder. They are interested as well, potentially, in more left-sided defensive cover. So we could actually be watching open training soon with some new people involved. There is already plenty of change at United this summer with the new leadership team in position, but also you'll be able to see the new first team facilities taking shape there in the background, which is expected to be world class. And I'm hearing early shouts that it could actually be the best training facilities in England.
Yeah, confirmation on this one. Chelsea have agreed a permanent deal with Atletico Madrid for João Felix. That means Conor Gallagher's transfer to Atletico Madrid is now back on. So this is the news we've been talking about. It's been rumbling on in the background for some time. We knew that there were complications with regards to that potential deal with Conor Gallagher because of the breakdown in the deal with Samu Omorodion. Now that this deal has been agreed, Conor Gallagher, who's been back training alone in the UK after the 5 days in Madrid, now potentially free to go and complete that move to Diego Simeone's side. So yeah, just confirmation there that Chelsea have agreed a permanent deal with Atletico Madrid for João Felix.
So Conor Gallagher can be free to go.
Manchester United's stance on Scott McTominay. Manchester United has made it clear that they will only consider offers for midfielder Scott McTominay under specific conditions, if the player himself expresses a strong desire to leave and if the club receives a satisfactory offer that aligns with their valuation. United recently turned down proposals from Fulham, who then shifted their attention to Sander Berge, another player who had been linked with a move to Old Trafford. Meanwhile, Napoli has also entered the fray, expressing interest in the Scottish international. However, it appears that Galatasaray, once a potential contender, is no longer pursuing McTominay. Napoli sporting director, Giovanni Manna, recently commented on the situation, acknowledging McTominay's strengths as a player. He mentioned, both McTominay and Brighton's Gilmour are strong, talented players. We'll see what unfolds in the coming days. There's no point speculating now, we have a game to focus on, and afterward, we'll consider the market. As the transfer window progresses, McTominay's future remains uncertain. While United is open to discussions, they are not in a rush to offload the player unless the right circumstances align. The club values McTominay's contribution on the pitch and will only part ways with him if it benefits both the player and the team. Until then, McTominay remains a key part of Erik ten Hag's squad, with his potential departure hinging on his own desires and the suitability of incoming offers.